If you're going to be purchasing a home and want to prepare yourself to make the process less stressful and save yourself time, money, and headaches not only during the actual buying process, but years down the road as well, then this is for you. In this video, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know when purchasing a property. Now, my market is the Greater Toronto Area, specifically Durham region and the areas that surround it. But most of the information in this video is applicable across other markets in Ontario and Canada as well. I'm going to break this video up into sections, and we're going to cover everything from before your home search starts all the way to closing on your property. If you're looking for something specific, you can always check the chapters and skip to the information that you're looking for. Quickly before we jump into it, if you're new to my videos, my name is Jessie McClellan, and I'm a realtor here in Oshawa, Ontario with the Lisa Abbott team. I make video content on the real estate market to keep you up to date on everything happening in Durham region and the GTA, and I also make videos like this to help people who are looking to buy or sell a property and are trying to learn more about the process. If that's something you're interested in, then please feel free to subscribe to the channel and help us grow this little community. And don't forget to hit that like button to help us reach more people like you. In this video, I'm going to give you a lot of information to process, so if at any point you have any questions, I'll put a link in the description and comment section that you can use to book a call with me at a time that works best for you, and I can help answer any questions that you may have. I'll also throw in the link to the home buying guide and some other resources for you as well. Now get a paper and pen or pull out the notes app on your phone if you're a note taker, and let's get right into it. It's a good idea to take a bit of time and really think about exactly what you want and need out of a house, and don't be afraid to be really specific with this list. What areas are you interested in? For some people, that could be a large radius, like I want to stay within 45 minutes of where I work, and for others, that's going to be a really specific neighborhood because maybe they want their kids to stay near their friends or in the same school district. Maybe there are certain things you want within walking or driving distance, like parks, transit, or shopping. Is there a certain type of neighborhood that you're interested in? Do you want to be around other families, or are you looking to be around other retired or more mature couples? Do you have children that play outside? Does a court work for you? Maybe you want a house on a specific lake or in a more rural area. Those are all things to consider for location. How many bedrooms do you need? How many bathrooms do you need? Do you need an ensuite bathroom? What about a garage? How many cars? How big does the driveway need to be? Do you need an entrance from the garage to the inside of the home? Sometimes square footage can be deceiving based on how the floor plan is actually laid out. But what's going to work best for you? Do you like a more old school layout, or do you prefer a more modern and open concept? What do you need out of a basement? Finished or unfinished? Do you need a walkout to the backyard or a basement apartment? Is it going to be multi-generational living and an in-law suites necessary? What about storage? Take into consideration how long you plan on living there. Are stairs going to be an issue down the road? Is the age of the home important to you? What about renovations? What upgrades do you want done, or what ones are you willing to do yourself? How big of a yard do you need? Do you have pets that need space to roam around? Do you need a yard that can be fenced in and secured for them? Are you looking for something with a pool or room for a pool? What about if you're considering condos? Is underground parking really important to you? What are the condo bylaws and building restrictions? Do you need a balcony? Do they allow pets? Do you want laundry in the unit, or is shared laundry okay? What floor do you want to be on? Do you need an elevator? Do they even have an elevator? What about barbecues? What about building amenities? Do you want a pool or a gym? You need to narrow down what's important for you and your family, what your needs are, and what are the things that are nice to have and what are absolute deal breakers for you. Is backing onto hydro towers a deal breaker? Then write that down. All of this information helps someone like me get a really good idea for what you and your family will need, and it helps me to make sure I'm showing you properties that will work for you. And you might get out and start seeing homes in person and realize that you really want to make some changes to your criteria, and that's okay too. What you thought might work for you when looking at homes online might change when you start to see homes in person. Don't be worried about adapting or making changes as you take in new information throughout this process. Now, once you have a good picture of what your ideal property looks like, it can be very helpful to figure out what are the most important things on that list. because the reality is that all of the items on your list are likely not going to line up perfectly for you. But if you can identify what is most important versus what you're flexible with, then you're opening yourself up to more options. For example, if a 3-bedroom detached home with a 2-car garage is a must for you, but there are all selling just above your budget, maybe we adjust the area and look a little further outside to help bring your needs back within your price range. When you hit a roadblock in your home search because what you want is not lining up with your budget, there are 2 things that you can do. Either you have to adjust what you're looking for, look at smaller homes or homes with a smaller garage or townhome instead of a detached. And if that isn't an option, then you have to adjust your search area. You can find almost any home in any budget if you're willing to change the area that you're looking in. I'd also like to mention that if you find yourself in that position, don't be afraid to consider homes a little further away. I've helped lots of clients move to Port Hope, Peterborough, and Lindsay to purchase their first home because they could find a more suitable property in their budget, and then a couple of years later, we helped them move right back into Durham region. For them, getting into the market sooner allowed them to move back in a relatively short time frame, whereas had they tried to keep saving while renting, they most likely would have been priced out of the market. So now at this point in the process, you know what you want, you know your needs, wants, and your deal breakers. You also have a good idea of locations that might work for you. You have it narrowed down enough that you're ready to start actively viewing properties. But before you jump in head first in the deep end, there are a few things you will need to know. The first one is, what type of market are you in? Is it a buyer's market where homes are for sale for a long period of time? There's a lot of inventory available to view, prices may be coming down slowly, and multiple offers aren't all that common. Is it a seller's market? Are prices increasing and there's low inventory of homes available and they're all receiving multiple offers? Or is it a more balanced market and it's somewhere in the middle? Don't rely on real estate headlines and clickbait articles in the news to tell you what's happening, because they're always months behind the trends. Speak with a local and experienced realtor, someone who is actively working on the buying and selling side and working in the areas that you're looking to buy in. You can also check stats yourself. Your local real estate board likely releases data every month that's available publicly. You can probably search the name of your area with market stats or housing reports to find it. These are the most important stats to look for: months of inventory. If it's not displayed on its own, you can get this number yourself by taking the number of active listings and dividing it by the number of sales happening. When the months of inventory are low, especially under 2 months, it's a seller's market. 2 to 4 months, it starts shifting to a more balanced market, and above 4 months of inventory starts to lean more in favor of buyers. Sales to new listing ratio is another stat that you can take a look at. It's just another number that gives us an idea of how hot the market is and how many of the properties being listed are selling. A ratio above 55% is generally associated with a seller's market. When the ratio exceeds 70%, it's considered a market that's overheating. Days on market is another stat you should be looking for. As the name suggests, it gives you an idea of how fast homes are selling in a specific area. It's a good stat to take into consideration with the other ones to help give you an idea of how fast homes are selling and help you be prepared for what to expect when you start viewing and offering on homes. The last number I like to look at is the sale price to list price ratio, which gives you an idea of how much homes are selling above or below their asking price on average. For example, in the peak of the market in February of 2022, the average sale price to list price ratio was 129% in Durham region. So homes were selling on average 29% over their list price. Right now, that number is about 107%. Now, homes are selling over asking doesn't necessarily mean homes are selling above their market value. A lot of the time, it's just properties listing lower intentionally to attract more buyers with the hopes of having multiple offers. Now, this brings me to my next point, which is about the types of home pricing strategies. If you're looking at homes in a market that leans more in favor of sellers, like the one we're in right now, you'll notice 2 types of pricing strategies being used. One strategy is the traditional list it where you think it should sell, maybe leaving a little bit of room for negotiation. This is the most common in a balanced or buyer's market. The price is right around what the seller is looking to accept. It makes it relatively easy to gauge seller expectations and compare it to recent sales in the area. If this strategy is used during a hot market, there could be a few reasons. One is that agent and seller decide that that's how they want to market the property. It's more likely that the home will receive less attention, less showings, and less offers. It could be an opportunity for you to buy a home with less competition from other buyers. Or number 2, it could be because they tried listing low and for whatever reason they didn't accept an offer. Maybe they didn't get the number they wanted, maybe it was a marketing or timing issue and they didn't get many offers. Maybe the house has major issues. Whatever it is, it didn't work out the first time. So they relisted or changed the price closer to what they would like to sell it for. Again, it could be an opportunity worth looking at. In a really hot seller's market, it can be difficult to find homes listed with a traditional strategy. The other strategy is listing at a price much lower than the seller intends to accept with the hopes of generating lots of interest and offers. In a seller's market, this is the strategy you're most likely going to come across. It can make your home search a bit more difficult when you're trying to determine what homes are going to sell in your budget and what homes will sell above your price point. And if I could offer a piece of advice here, I'd like to say this. Don't go into your home buying journey with the thought that I don't want to get into any bidding wars, because depending on your market, that might be very, very difficult to accomplish. If you're shopping in a hot market, I suggest you go with the attitude that you won't overpay for a home. I hear buyers say this all the time, but what I really think they mean is that they don't want to get into a situation where they feel pressured to overextend themselves or pay way more than the home is worth, or be forced to buy a property without any protections, such as a financing or a home inspection condition. And that's something I totally understand, appreciate, and will work with them to find something that's in their budget and suits their needs. But if you flat out avoid a home because it has an offer in on it already, that could eliminate upwards of 95% of homes available to you, and they will probably sell for a price that you would have paid. This brings me right to the next step, which is choosing your real estate agent. If one of your concerns is bidding wars and overpaying for a home, choosing the right realtor is going to better protect you than if you just decide you don't want to bid on any homes that already have an offer in on them. Choosing the right realtor is going to help you avoid showing up on closing day to a house that has no appliances because your realtor forgot to include them in the offer. It's going to help you avoid submitting an offer that's $100,000 above the second highest offer and leaves you in a bad position when the house doesn't appraise for the purchase price and the bank calls you to ask you for the difference in cash. It will help you avoid buying a home in an area of town that has a stigma or a worse reputation and will have limited appreciation compared to other neighborhoods. It will help you avoid having an agent who calls the listing agent to write the offer for your buyer because they never learned how to. And yes, I have seen all of these things happen, and unfortunately, a lot more than you'd think. So how do you know which realtor to choose? What might be important to you might not be important to the next person, but generally, I would suggest you find out, what is the agent's experience? How long have they been in the business? How active are they? Do they work the listing and the sale side, or do they only see the buying end of transactions? Someone who's a buyer agent can be great, but I know I have a much better understanding of processes and market trends because I'm involved with sellers on the listing side as well. Is the agent familiar and knowledgeable in the areas you're shopping in? I'm legally allowed to transact in all of Ontario, but if you call me to help you buy a home in Sudbury, I'm going to respectfully say no because I'm not familiar with that area or market. I'd be happy to refer you to somebody I know and trust that works that area, but I would never do it myself because that's a disservice to my client. Make sure the agent really understands the good, the bad, and the ugly about an area, and is active enough in the business to know what the market trends are. What boards does the agent have access to? For example, the Toronto board covers a large area. One of those areas is Port Hope, but sometimes agents who work out of there are only part of the Northumberland board, and they don't necessarily put their listings on the Toronto board. So if you're looking in an area where boards kind of overlap, that agent should have access to both boards to ensure you're not missing opportunities. I have access to all the boards in my service area, and it's not uncommon to see a home that's listed on a smaller board, but not on the Toronto one, which can make for a great opportunity because if it's not on the Toronto board, it's likely not being sent out to the majority of buyers, which can mean less competition and a better deal for a buyer. Next, you should also check their reviews on Google and Facebook. Are their clients happy? And are they happy enough to use them again? What percentage of that agent's business is from past clients or referrals from past clients? Something else to consider is, are they a solo agent or do they work on a team? Lisa and I are a small family team, although we operate operate more like a partnership. There's no competition between us, and the benefit of having two of us is that someone is always available to show homes, answer questions, or deal with anything that may come up. And that person is going to be up to speed on your situation because we work together and aren't working against each other. It gives me the opportunity to do things like canvassing a neighborhood for a client who's looking for a very specific home, because Lisa's able to show homes to another buyer or is able to handle offers on our listing and vice versa. It gives us more flexibility and allows us to do some of the things for our clients that we might not normally have the time to do if we were a solo agent. You'll never miss out on a property because we're too busy. Some teams operate differently though. A lot of teams are structured where the leader handles the listings and team members only handle the buyers that come in, and the other agents are competing against each other rather than working together. The next thing to pay attention to is how is the communication, and are they available when you have questions, or do you feel like you're waiting a day or two later to hear back? This market moves quickly, so your agent should communicate with you in a timely manner. And when they do go out of town or on vacation, they should also have an agent that's covering their business that will communicate with you and be available to show you properties. If someone's representing you in a transaction, they are compensated very well for their time when you buy a home, so you should feel like they communicate with you, they represent and understand what's in your best interest, they offer you the right advice, and do everything in their power to help you find the right property. You should never feel like you're a bother to your agent. They're there to guide you and answer your questions from the start of the process to after you close on the property. And if you're not sure when to reach out to them, I usually recommend earlier rather than later. They can offer some early advice, connect you with a mortgage broker if you need one, and start to prepare you for the market you're looking to buy in. That way, by the time you get to the point of viewing homes, you're already more prepared and educated than most buyers in the market. And like I said at the start of this video, there's a link below if you'd like to speak with me or if you'd like help with finding an agent in a different market. The next step in the process is going to be getting your pre-approval. Being pre-qualified and having a pre-approval are two different things. When you want to purchase a home, you need to be pre-approved. If you've spoken to someone and received a number, but you don't know if it was a pre-approval or just a pre-qualification, if you haven't submitted any paperwork and your pay stubs to a specialist or mortgage agent, then you are not pre-approved. Pre-qualification is pretty much just a guesstimate based on numbers you've provided. Pre-approvals actually confirm that yes, you get paid what you said you get paid, and you don't have more debt than you said you had. Now, when it comes time to get your pre-approval, you have two options. You can get pre-approved through a bank, or you can go through an independent mortgage agent or broker. So what's the difference? Typically, a specialist at a bank is going to be able to offer you that particular bank's mortgage products, whereas independent mortgage broker or agent will be able to shop rates and lenders for you without having to pull your credit multiple times. If you wanted to know what you qualify for at CIBC, BMO, and TD, but through their specialists, you would have to go to each one and have each one pull your credit and look over your information. A mortgage broker can pull your credit score, take all of your info, and then shop around for you as they have access to a lot more lender options. And that also does include some big banks. So they could check CIBC, BMO, and TD, but they can also check other lenders to give you more options to choose from and help you find the best fit for you. A mortgage specialist or a broker is also going to be able to guide you on your options for fixed rate versus variable rate. There's pros and cons to both. A fixed rate offers the peace of mind that you know what your payment is going to be every month, but one of the downsides could be that there are big penalties for breaking that mortgage if you need to refinance or move before the term is up. Those are conversations to have with whatever mortgage broker or specialist you decide to contact. If you need recommendations, just reach out to me. I'm happy to connect you with someone that my clients use and love. One question you need to ask your bank or mortgage broker is about your pre-approval's expiry. Typically, a pre-approval is for 90 or 120 days. Whatever it is, you need to ask if you need to have an accepted offer in that time frame, or if you're required to have an accepted offer and close on the property in that time frame. That's very important information to know, especially in an environment where rates are increasing. Now, for your down payment in Canada, the minimum down payment is 5%, but that's only up to the first $500,000. Then it's 10% on the remaining value between $500,000 and $1 million. And any property that's above $1 million is a minimum of 20% down. So for example, if you were buying a $600,000 home, you need the 5% on the first $500,000, so that's $25,000, and 10% on the remaining amount. So 10% of $100,000 is $10,000. So your total down payment needed for a $600,000 home would be $35,000. Now, if you're paying less than 20%, you also need CMHC insurance. The cost of this insurance is not needed up front because it's included in your mortgage costs, but it is mandatory. I've heard some people say that they want to wait to save the 20% to save paying the insurance, but generally for most people and most situations, that's not something that I would recommend, especially in a market like the Greater Toronto Area. Over the last 5 years in Durham region, the average price of a home has increased by 56%, or almost $350,000. So what you need to consider is how long it's going to take to save that 20%. How much can I expect the market to increase in that same time frame? And how is that going to affect your pre-approval? Because putting 20% or more down can lead to a higher interest rate because the mortgage is no longer insured. All those are factors to consider. In my market, for most people, 9 times out of 10, it's more beneficial for them to get in the market and build equity sooner rather than trying to outsave a market that's increasing $70,000 in price each year. So right now, you should have a pretty good idea of what you're looking for. You've been pre-qualified by a mortgage broker or specialist at a bank, and you've picked a realtor that you would like to work with. Before we get to the exciting part of the process, which is viewing properties, of course, you're going to need one more thing, and that is cash for your deposit. A deposit and down payment are not the same thing. Let's say you're buying a $750,000 home and you're planning to put a down payment of 10%, so roughly $75,000. If you put a deposit of $40,000 in your offer and it gets accepted, you will deliver the funds for the deposit within 24 hours, and then upon closing, you'll be required to pay the remainder of the down payment, which in this case would be another $35,000. There's no required amount for a deposit. However, we do see more requests for 5% now, give or take, but ultimately that will be up to you to decide based on your financial situation. The deposit amount is another part of the offer that can be negotiated and increased to better your offer. A higher deposit shows higher intent and commitment as you have more skin in the game, and can sometimes make a seller feel more confident in you as a buyer if your offer happens to be going against a very similar offer. Whatever you decide, you need to have access to that money if your offer gets accepted. Normally, you have 24 hours from acceptance to deliver the funds to the seller's brokerage. Usually by check or wire transfer, your agent will be able to guide you when that time comes. Here's something you should also keep in mind. Let's say you make an offer and it gets accepted with a condition on home inspection. You deliver the deposit check, you do the home inspection, and realize that the house needs way too much unexpected work. I'm going to use that home inspection to get out of that deal. A deposit is refundable if the offer is not firm and you have a legal way to get out of that deal using the conditions in that offer. But you need to know that if you back out of the deal, your deposit money may not be returned for a number of business days, especially if it's by wire transfer. So if you find another home and get an accepted offer on it, you will need the cash again for the deposit. Either leave yourself with enough wiggle room that you can still make another offer, or realize that if all your cash is tied up in a wire transfer that's going to take a few days to settle, you won't be able to offer on homes during that time, or you will need to request an extended deposit time. Other costs you will need to consider on top of your deposit and down payment are lawyer fees, home inspection if you're doing one, and land transfer tax, which if you're a first-time buyer, there is a rebate for that. These extra costs typically work out to be 1 to 2% of the purchase price depending on the price point of the property that you're buying. Now you have an understanding of what you need for a deposit and other costs. Let's jump into what the home search portion of this journey looks like. You probably already took a look online. Generally, if you're searching online, I would recommend you stick to Realtor.ca, but I know there are other sites and apps out there that people like to use that might provide different information. But if you're at this point and know which agent you are working with, this is where I would lean on them. They will be able to set you up on a system or with an app that will send you new listings that match your criteria, but also show you sold prices and more data than you'd find on a generic real estate listings website. Sometimes you might notice a home yourself on Realtor.ca that might have been just outside of your search criteria or might have been listed on another board. That's going to happen, but you shouldn't feel like you're the only one keeping an eye out for you. Make sure your agent is involved. When it comes to viewing the properties in person, normally I recommend you don't view more than 4 or 5 properties at a time. I say this because properties will start to blend together, and trust me, they do. If you can limit it to 4 or 5 properties at a time, that just helps you keep track of what ones you like and what ones you didn't like. After 5 properties, it's easy to start mixing homes together and forgetting which house had a certain room or feature. I know that's not possible all the time for everyone because maybe you're traveling an hour and a half to get into the city to view homes, so you want to line up as many as you can. But just a general rule of thumb to make things easier for you, limit it to 4 or 5 homes at a time. When you see a home come up that you're interested in, get out to see it as soon as you can. Even in a more normal market, the homes that look great in photos and great in person are going to sell fast. The longer you wait, the more time and opportunity you're giving to other buyers to walk through it and potentially submit an offer. When we're booking a time for you to view a property, please be considerate that we're asking someone to leave their home for 30 minutes to an hour for you to walk through it. So please be on time, and if you're running late because of traffic, just shoot your agent a text. We want to be respectful of the homeowner's time. We also need to be respectful of their property. This means removing shoes before walking throughout the home. You may want to consider bringing footwear that's easy to slip on and off. You're free to give the home a thorough look, check all of the rooms, closets, storage, and anything else while being considerate of the owner's personal belongings. Many properties are often professionally staged, so do your best to look past any furniture, artwork, and accent pieces in the home, as they can be cleverly placed to hide damage or make the space feel larger than it actually is. It's nice to feel you can move straight in without having to do a thing, but try to remain objective. Their furnishings can make the space feel a lot larger than it is, and remember, it's your furniture that you'll be moving in with. Make sure the space works for you. As a realtor, my job is to work for you and in your best interest. This means that while I will point out good features and things that might work for you and your family, I will also point out any negative aspects on the home as well. That could be signs of water damage, windows that need to be replaced or repaired, an old furnace. It could be the layout and how it might not be functional for you. My job is to help you see past the marketing, staging, and HGTV feel and help you really think about the functionality and condition of the home. And that doesn't mean that you don't buy the house. It just means that we make adjustments for these things if you decide to do an offer. It's easier to negotiate blatantly obvious issues in the offer stage rather than trying to do so after a home inspection, since the seller usually assumes you've already considered those issues in your offer. It's a different matter if the home inspector finds something unexpected, like a brand new furnace being rusted out on the inside. Big things like that are often a surprise to the seller as well. One tip I like to give to buyers is to consider what can be changed and what can't be changed. If you don't like a home because it backs on to, let's say, a cemetery, well, that's something that's out of our control, and we should probably move on to the next property if that's a deal breaker for you. But if you don't like a home because the paint colors aren't to your taste or the main floor bathroom is a little bit outdated, those are things that absolutely can be changed and shouldn't necessarily mean you cross that home off your list. Another tip is, while you're inside or just outside of the home, try to keep in mind that there may be audio or video recording happening, and to be mindful of what conversations you have at the property. We don't want to insult the owner, nor do we want you to express your absolute love for the property before you submit an offer. It's okay to talk about your likes and dislikes, but just be mindful on how it's said. Once we're outside and away from any recording devices, we can have a better conversation about your thoughts and feelings of the home. I should also quickly mention open houses. Open houses are great. If you like attending them, that's totally okay. But you should know that an open house is usually better at generating leads for an agent than it is at selling the property, and that listing agent is not working for you, but is there to sell that home to anyone who will buy it because they are working for their seller. Don't attend open houses because you don't want to bother your agent. I want you to bother me, because the truth is, if you like that home and want to submit an offer on it, I have to book a showing to see it myself anyways, because I need to see exactly what you're seeing. And I need to know if there are any red flags or anything that needs to be addressed or noted in the offer before you commit to purchasing that property. And I can't do that if I haven't seen it. So please bother me. And in my opinion, it's a red flag if an agent tells you to view open houses and doesn't want to view the home with you. You can't properly represent someone without seeing a home. Simple as that. Before we move on to the submitting an offer stage, here's a tip on ranking homes. Everyone's home buying journey is different. Some people view 3 homes, some people view 30 homes before they find the one that works for them. In order to keep your sanity, I need you to remember the best and forget the rest. If you view 4 homes, remember the best one or maybe the best 2 and forget the others. Don't worry about them. If things change and we need to circle back, I can help you do that, but remember to keep track of your top picks and that's it. If you try and keep track of everything you've seen, you'll start blending things together and it's an easy way to get stressed out and confused. Now it's offer time. If you've found the perfect home, you're excited and you want to make an offer, here's what you need to consider when making your offer. Your price is obviously going to be probably the biggest factor. But this is where having an experienced agent and someone who is good at communicating can benefit you. As much as the offer price is a big factor, sometimes it's not the most important thing to the seller. Or sometimes all the offers are close in price and it comes down to other factors that sway the final decision. Other factors to consider are the closing date. When is the ideal closing date for the seller? Sometimes the seller needs a really long or really short closing date, and the more flexible you can be to accommodate, the more it helps your chances of getting your offer accepted. The deposit amount is another factor. Keep in mind what I mentioned before about tying all your cash up. But a higher deposit amount generally shows a more serious buyer or someone who may be more financially capable. And sometimes other factors are important to the seller too. I've had clients who had homes that were in the family for generations, and it was important for them to know that the next buyer wasn't going to turn their home into multiple units to rent out. They wanted another family to move in and love it like they did for so many years before. This is where something like an offer letter can be a big difference maker. Some people might roll their eyes at it. I know some realtors use them and some realtors don't, but it can help you win in a multiple offer situation. Now, it's unlikely that if you're $100,000 below the highest offer that things will sway your way because you wrote a nice letter, but don't underestimate what a cute family picture can do alongside a well-written letter. I can tell you from personal experience that I have had a buyer client get offers accepted because of our letters when we were not even the highest offer. And I've seen seller clients push to accept a slightly lower offer because they loved the offer letter because they made a connection with them. But I have never had a client's offer declined because their family picture and letter were too cute. I have, however, had clients opt to decline offers because of the way other agents have handled the offer process, and that can be a number of reasons. Whether it's tons of mistakes in the offer, which gave them a lack of confidence that the deal will close. It could be concerns about their financing that the agent never gave us any straight answers on. The listing agent's job is to sell the home for the most money, yes, but also to protect their client's best interests as well. They will do everything to ensure that they are confident in their buyer's agent, their buyer financial status, and the ability for this deal to close. So make sure that your agent is communicating everything with the seller and making a case for why you are the best person possible to buy this house. Maybe you have cash that's tied up in a deposit on a previous offer that fell apart and it hasn't hit your bank account yet. Make sure that your agent is explaining why your deposit is lower and that they're confident in your pre-approval, your lender, and the ability for you to close on the deal. As someone on the listing side, I could get 20 offers on a home and maybe 2 or 3 agents will communicate with me, submit client letters, tell me all about their client, and show that they are competent and excited to get a deal done. The rest just randomly email me in the offers and never picks up the phone or gives me any details. Those offers are usually not amongst the top contenders. The last and one of the biggest things you need to consider is conditions. Now, conditions can be tricky depending on the market you're buying in and what's happening in the market. Right now, in my market, a lot of homes are accepting offers with no conditions on them. I will always recommend that you include conditions on your offer, and I will always explain very thoroughly why these conditions are important, and if you make the choice to submit an unconditional offer, that is your decision to make. I understand that that is what is happening a lot in this market, but it is important for you to know what that actually means. The unfortunate reality is if you're competing against other offers that are unconditional, you will likely not have your offer accepted unless your offer price is well above the others to make it worth it for the seller. A firm offer is more guaranteed and a conditional offer is not. And when a seller has a firm offer on the table, it can take a lot to sway them to your offer that includes conditions. These are conversations to have with your agent at the time of writing an offer. There's no need to get worked up about that now because it might not even be a conversation you need to have when the time is right for you. Now, there's lots of possible conditions you can add to an offer, and I'll run through the most common ones. A financing condition which allows your lender a set amount of days to verify that your financing is good to go for that specific property. In our market, that condition is usually valid for between 3 and 7 business days. If your bank or lender is telling you that they need more than that, it might be time to consider talking to a new bank or mortgage broker, because long financing conditions are going to make it extremely difficult for you to get an offer accepted. The next most common condition is a home inspection condition. If you have an offer accepted that is conditional on financing and home inspection, let the financing condition be satisfied first before you pay for a home inspection, because if your financing falls through, there's no need to pay for a home inspection. A home inspection can be done in a relatively short amount of time. A couple days is usually all you need. You can also make your offer conditional on obtaining insurance, but sometimes we're able to get enough of that information beforehand to have an idea of whether or not obtaining insurance is going to be an issue. But if you're buying a home that could have, say, knob and tube wiring or something that insurance companies don't like to insure, you're going to want this condition. And if it's a condo, you can have it conditional on the review of status certificate. This condition gives you time to have a lawyer review the status certificate, which has information including the financial status of the condo corporation and can give you insight into whether there are any special assessments on the condo units or if the reserve fund is really low. It will also give you insight into the bylaws of the condo corporation. Sometimes though, the listing agent is prepared and has the status certificate available as soon as it's on the market, in which case I will contact them for it, pass it off to you to have a lawyer review it before we submit an offer ideally. That allows us to submit a cleaner offer with less conditions to make it more appealing to the seller and give you your best shot. Once you have an accepted offer, you will have to deliver the deposit to the seller's brokerage. The brokerage will instruct your agent and you on how you can do that, typically by physical bank draft or by wire transfer. That usually has to be received within 24 hours. This is why it's important to have those funds readily available. Not showing up with a deposit check is not an option. It can and will land you in a lot of legal trouble. So understand that when you sign and submit an offer, it's in the seller's court and your only way out is through whatever conditions you have included in your offer. Once the offer is accepted and the deposit is delivered, you can now use the time period specified in your offer conditions to do your due diligence, have your lender confirm your financing, do the home inspection, whatever is applicable. If you perform a home inspection and unexpected things come up, you and your realtor can then discuss whether you want to move forward with the deal or make adjustments to the offer price or whatever the proposed solution may be. Your home inspection is there to help you find major flaws and expensive issues. We're not looking for insignificant things to renegotiate over. If we find water damage or a broken furnace or mold in the attic, that's when we can have those big conversations with the listing agent. You don't use your home inspection to renegotiate over a smoke detector that needs a new battery. Once you have finalized everything, you can now waive the conditions and firm up on your offer. And congratulations, you are now set to be the new owner of that property. You don't take possession of the property and become the new owner until the property closes and funds are transferred. A normal closing is usually anywhere from 60 to 90 days from an accepted agreement, but there are situations where a buyer or seller would want a longer or shorter closing. In some scenarios, a longer closing can be seen as a little bit more risky because things can change. People can lose jobs, other deals can fall through, or if the market is volatile and sees a decline, it could potentially cause appraisal issues. That's a conversation to have with your realtor, and it can also depend on what your mortgage pre-approval allows as well. It's very important that before your home closes, that you do not do anything that could jeopardize the transaction. I will pop the list up on the screen for you here if you'd like to pause the video or screenshot it to read it later. Between acceptance of offer and closing date, you will have to meet with your lender to sign documents. Closer to the closing date, you will also meet with your lawyer to sign documents, usually about a week prior to closing. Around 1 month prior to closing, you will want to start contacting utility companies to initiate the switch and let them know the day that you are taking possession. The sellers will do the same on their end. For internet, phone, and cable, you can call in advance and set up an appointment for a suitable day after you take possession. You will likely need to be present at the property for all of that as well. You may also have walkthroughs included in your offer. If so, you will want to schedule those prior to closing as well. The number of walkthroughs you have available is going to depend on the details of your offer, but it's best to leave one walkthrough to use a couple days prior to closing on the property. This allows you to check and make sure that everything is in good condition and working as expected, and that the sellers look like they're actually going to vacate the property on time to ensure a smooth closing. A walkthrough is also a good time to take measurements to give you an idea of how your belongings will fit. You may not make any changes to the property or bring any of your belongings with you until you have closed and taken possession of the property. On closing, you may have to either pick up a key from your lawyer, or the lawyer may give you access to a lockbox code once you're able to take possession of the home. Once you take possession, you absolutely must do the following. Check for damages, test all of your appliances, and ensure that they are in good working order. This includes dishwasher, refrigerator, stove, washer, dryer, furnace, air conditioner, central vac, and any other appliances. If you have a pool, test the heater and anything associated with it as well. If you spot any damages or broken appliances, take videos and pictures and immediately email it to your lawyer by midnight on closing day. After that, it's time to begin the unpacking process and start enjoying your new home. It's been a long journey and you deserve it. Did you find anything in this video helpful? If you did, please hit that like button because it really helps this channel grow. I make a lot of content on the real estate market, especially what's going on in Durham region and the GTA. I make videos about good areas and areas to avoid. And if you are interested in that kind of content, then please subscribe to the channel as well. Congratulations on getting a head start. If you took some points away from this video, you're miles ahead of any other buyer starting their home search, and that's something you should be proud of. You can always use the link in the description if you have any questions for me or would like help buying or selling a property. Thanks so much for watching up until the end, and hopefully I'll see you back here for next week's video. Bye!